Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Jacob.
It's our news digest, but it's like a double whammy. We're going to talk about the news, which is great, but there will be no Chinese teacher today.
Oh.
Our Chinese teacher's taking the day off.
So everyone has to pay special attention.
Yeah, and we're not supposed to say any Chinese phrases out loud.
Good.
So I'll try my best. Sometimes Jacob and I have been here a long time in Taiwan, so we often will use Chinglish just like you guys do, where you combine a few English words with Chinese words because we know what they mean. And, you know, I was just going to say 习惯了. So, yeah, we just do it. We've been here too long not to have some Chinese slip out.
Wait, did you already break the rule?
I already broke the rule.
1 minute into our article here?
What is the punishment? Oh, I hope I get something sweet to eat. That's my punishment.
Okay.
Well, we're going to talk about how California is working to build the world's largest wildlife crossing in kind of a busy area of California.
Sure, Southern California, outside of Los Angeles.
Yeah, I lived in San Diego and LA for a while.
Okay.
About a year in total. Discovered I didn't really like California very much. So then I moved back and then went back east to New York. But there are freeways, and we call them freeways because we don't have to pay money on the freeways over there. If you have to pay money, sometimes that's called a toll that you have to pay. We do have tolls that we have to pay here in Taiwan to keep our roads in good condition. But the freeways are just all over California. And when I lived in San Diego, I used to drive for a whole hour to get to work. So you wanted to make sure you had a great stereo in your car. And I just sang the whole time.
Nice.
Have you lived in California, Jacob?
No, just visited. Like you said you spent some time on the East Coast. That's where I'm from. So I grew up in Massachusetts, and then I went to school in Rhode Island. So I stayed close to New England. But I've been to California. Northern California and Southern California are very different, right?
Yeah.
But Southern California, the city of Los Angeles, it's a huge city, and everyone drives there, right? It's not a really great walking city as far as I know. So, yeah, people they get in their cars and they drive everywhere. So there are lots of highways and roads and streets.
Not a lot of public transportation at all.
No.
You have to have a car.
Yeah. And so here we have an article about, since there are lots of highways there, since there are lots of people in cars,
right.
We have animals too. And what usually happens if a car and an animal meet? Well, it doesn't go very well for the animal in most cases.
Yeah.
So what the city wants to do, they want to build the world's largest wildlife crossing. So this is exciting. This is a way for animals to safely cross the highway, to cross the road. So it's going to be very interesting, I think.
If we can train them to do that, yeah. But the poor things get hit by cars and trucks. It's very sad. So we're going to start out by reading through this news article. There's just one today, and then we'll be back to talk about some of these phrases and vocabulary words. Stay tuned.
A highway project designed to benefit wild animals has begun construction in California. The overpass, which had its groundbreaking ceremony in April, stretches over a section of the 10-lane US 101 highway to the northwest of downtown Los Angeles. The introduction of a wildlife bridge is intended to save the lives of animals in the area. In particular, the endangered mountain lion species. This part of Southern California is riddled with freeways, and over 25 mountain lions have been hit and killed here since 2002. There are now fewer than 13 mountain lions left in the area. With such a small population, inbreeding has caused a dangerous lack of genetic diversity. Many young mountain lions have been born with tail and testicle defects. The National Wildlife Federation hopes the new bridge will allow mountain lions to expand their territory and increase their populations. The Wildlife Bridge team spent 10 years planning the crossing, but it isn't scheduled to be completed until 2025. About 60% of its $90 million costs have been funded by private donations, which took time to collect. Additionally, the bridge had to be carefully planned. It will be covered with plants to help it blend in with the surrounding natural landscape. The team also implemented special sound and light barriers to encourage nocturnal animals to cross, despite the presence of road noise and light. If anyone needed to justify the crossing's high costs, they need look no further than Canada. There, Banff National Park has over 40 wildlife crossings and has seen a 90% reduction in wildlife deaths from traffic. Thanks to the reduction in accidents, the park has found its crossings often pay for themselves within a decade or two. So, whether someone believes in spending large sums of money to help wildlife or not, there are also substantial human benefits.
Okay, guys, let's dive in and get started on this. We're going to be talking about a wildlife crossing that's being built in California. And when it gets finished, it's supposed to be the world's biggest or largest wildlife crossing. So it's a highway project designed to benefit wild animals, and it's begun construction in California. So they've already started, but they're not finished yet. So it's ongoing construction. And what we're going to talk about is something called an overpass here in the next sentence. An overpass, we have a lot of those here in Taiwan. It's a structure, and it's kind of like a bridge that allows one road to go over another road. Or sometimes there are overpasses that are just for pedestrians, people crossing the street.
Right.
Jacob and I work downtown by the Taipei train station, and there's an overpass that goes across Zhongxiaoxilu, and it's so convenient.
Right.
I don't have to wait for any crosswalk signs that give me the green walking man. I can just walk up and then walk across and then walk down, and I'm across that big busy street. So that's what an overpass is, and it had something called a groundbreaking ceremony. What's that?
Well, a groundbreaking ceremony is when people, important people usually, will get together and they'll take their shovels, and sometimes these are even special shovels. They're gold or they're silver. They're not
pretty.
the ones that they really use, but and then the photographers, the press will be there taking photos, and it's like a special event where people actually put their special shovels into the dirt, and it's basically just to mark the beginning of the project. And so you'll have the government people will be there, the leaders of the company who are doing the work will be there, and the press will be taking pictures there so it can go into the newspapers or go on the internet, and then someone will write a story saying, "Oh, we've begun work on this project." So anytime there's a big building that's going up in Taiwan or a project that's going to be undertaken, you will have this groundbreaking ceremony.
And they're doing this groundbreaking ceremony over a stretch or a piece of the 10-lane US 101 highway.
10 lanes.
10 lanes, I know. I was going to say here in Taiwan, I've probably seen 6 lanes, 3 on each side.
Yep.
That's probably the most I've seen, but 10 lanes. This is a huge, huge stretch of highway. So a lane is just a division of a road, and usually they mark off where those divides happen or the divisions happen with painted lines. Usually they're dotted or they're not dotted. They're
solid
lines. Yeah, which means you can't pass at any time if it's solid. But yeah, it's a big, big area. It's in the northwest part of downtown Los Angeles. And this is the introduction of a wildlife bridge, and it's intended, as we said, to save the lives of animals in the area. We're losing some of our wildlife that's really important for the ecosystem. In particular, they're losing some endangered mountain lion species. If you're endangered, it just means you're at risk to becoming extinct or no longer existing on Earth. There are too few numbers. And we have to have these mountain lions to keep other animals in check. Mountain lions will pursue some types of prey.
Right.
We want the ecosystem to stay balanced, and so we're trying to help these mountain lions.
Right. That's the problem because these highways, when we build them, the animals were already there, right? So they were used to just walking wherever they wanted to. And then we build cities and we build these highways, and then all of a sudden, you know, the lions were used to just going wherever they wanted, but now they can't because there's a big highway in the way. And unlike people, the mountain lion might not really know, okay, I shouldn't walk out into this highway because a person will know, I can't walk onto the highway because I'm going to be hit by a car. But a mountain lion doesn't know that.
Right.
So unfortunately, what you have is when you build these highways, the wildlife will still cross the highway, and many of them will, of course, be killed by the traffic, by the cars. Because on a highway or on a freeway, you're going 100 kilometers per hour, 110 kilometers per hour. And in the U.S., they drive even faster, right? So
yeah, they do.
It can be very dangerous for the animals.
Now, moving on to paragraph 2, it says this part of Southern California. And notice we're capitalizing Southern here. It's a very well-known region of the United States, Southern Cal. You'll hear people say, I'm going to Southern Cal.
SoCal.
Yeah, SoCal. You'll see that too. Southern California. It's riddled with freeways. To be riddled with something. Riddled is an adjective, so we use it with the be verb. Be riddled with something. A lot of times it will be riddled with holes.
That's what I thought of.
Yeah, or I thought of this. The road is riddled with potholes.
Ooh.
Yeah, there are a lot of holes in the road that haven't been fixed by the construction workers yet. Or you might have a friend who's had cancer. I've had family members with cancer, and their bodies can become riddled with cancer.
Yeah.
So what it means is just full of something. It's usually something bad or unpleasant.
I was going to say that you never really hear to be riddled with used in a positive sense. It's always in a negative sense. So
it really is.
Yeah, be careful because when you hear this phrase, it kind of brings to mind maybe bad things. And when we're talking about wildlife, of course, freeways might not be the best thing for them. Okay, so it's Southern California is riddled with freeways. There's lots of freeways. And over 25 mountain lions have been hit and killed there since 2002. Okay, so 2002 is 20 years ago, and we've had 25 mountain lions killed. And usually when you think of animals crossing the highway, you might think of smaller animals or maybe even deer or things like that. But mountain lions, I mean, these are things that we should hopefully try and protect, especially these mountain lions. Now, there are less than 13 left in the area, so their numbers are going down and down. With such a small population, inbreeding has caused a dangerous lack of genetic diversity. What this means is the population is small, so when the mountain lions want to get together and make mountain lion babies, there's not enough of them. So basically, it's like inbreeding is when two things get together and they're already related. And so this is bad for the genes, G-E-N-E-S, the genes. It kind of just leads to being unhealthy. I think when we hear this in Taiwan, sometimes there's cats and people will breed these special cats. And unfortunately, these cats might be the kind of sisters or brothers or cousins. And then the kittens that they have are not very healthy. And be due to the lack of genetic diversity. And this is bad for the cats. The kittens aren't healthy. You go to the pet shop and you buy the kitten, and then unfortunately it will be sick and it will die, and you'll feel bad because it's just a problem that happens.
It really is. We're going to talk more about this, guys, but first, we're going to take a short break and then we'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about how California in the southern United States, that's on the west coast, they're getting ready to build the world's largest wildlife crossing, especially because they want to protect some mountain lions in that particular area. Their population has been reduced to just 13 that are in the area. Now, mountain lions typically stay away from people. So the fact that they've come down, it just puts them at risk of getting hit by cars. Cars can't see them sometimes or don't see them in time and hit them. Now, we've got such a small population that inbreeding or having mountain lion babies with their own immediate family, like with a dad having, sex with his child or something. That's
not good.
Not good. It causes some genetic problems. Here it says it caused a dangerous lack of, not enough, of genetic diversity. Diversity is our word here that's in our vocabulary list. It just means a range of things, a range of different people, things, ideas. You can have a diversity of opinions. You can have a diversity of backgrounds. You could have a diversity of lots of different things. It's nice to hear from people that have different ideas.
Yes.
Maybe have, they grew up in a different background or part of the world. Everyone has their own unique set of beliefs and ideas they can bring. Well, here we've got a lack of genetic diversity. There aren't enough different gene lines for these lions, mountain lions, to reproduce young. They all have some problems. Here it says, many young mountain lions have been born with tail and testicle defects. Tail, of course, maybe missing a tail, I don't know.
Yeah.
Testicle, for the guys out there, you know what this is. It's part of a male's sex organs. It produces sperm.
Kind of leaned over in our chairs when we read about this because no testicle defects.
Yeah, that's the area of the body, though, that produces sperm and allows that animal or person to produce young animals or babies. So, yeah, that's not a good thing. That's why they're having problems. The National Wildlife Federation, this is some sort of organization that's hoping to build this wildlife crossing. They hope the new bridge will allow the mountain lions to expand their territory and increase their populations. We're using population in a plural form here because we're talking about mountain lions in different parts of an area. If it's just one area, it's just the population. Be careful with, don't always put an S on that. Be careful. It's usually non-count. Expand means to become bigger, larger in size, in number, in amount. So it just expands. The opposite is to contract, get smaller. So you can increase. That's a good synonym for expand, to increase, and decrease is the opposite of is the opposite of increase. We could say water expands as it freezes.
Yes.
So liquid water, as it turns into ice, it gets bigger.
Or if you have a balloon and you blow air into the balloon will expand as you force air into it, as you blow air into it. So it also will expand in that way. So, okay, good. Then this wildlife bridge will help the mountain lion population expand. There'll be more mountain lions, or they won't be killed as easily, let's hope. Okay, our next paragraph. The Wildlife Bridge team, well, they spent 10 years planning this crossing, and it isn't scheduled to be completed until 2025. Okay, so like any construction project, it takes time. And remember the size of this highway, it's a 10-lane highway. So there's 5 lanes going in one direction and then 5 lanes going in the other direction. It takes a lot of work to do this. Maybe like the construction will probably happen mostly at night because they won't want to make the traffic on this highway be any more inconvenienced by the construction project. So they're probably working at night. You have to work carefully and slowly because you don't want things falling onto the highway as you're building it. So anyway, it's going to take some time. It won't be completed until 2025. And we learn that the bridge is both publicly and privately financed. Okay, so that means money from individuals, just people, normal people like you and I, are giving money, and also the government will give some money. About 60% of its $90 million US costs have been funded by private donations. So that means animal lovers, ordinary people, they are donating money, 60% of this money, to build this wildlife crossing.
That's great. And you look here, it says, additionally, the bridge had to be carefully planned. That takes time. It will be covered with plants. I love that. We have a lot of concrete out in the LA area. Ugh, I just get tired of all the concrete. I love green plants and trees. So this particular bridge will have plants that cover it to help it blend in with the surrounding natural landscape. So if you blend in, it just means you fit very well with a particular place. Maybe you're going to a new school and it's got a lot of similar features to your old school, so it was easy to blend in with the people or the students there. You can blend in if you match something, and that's what we're talking about here. Their plants that they're adding to the bridge will match the surrounding landscape, not the other concrete construction that you see, but at least where we see some green natural scenery.
Right.
So you can also blend in if you're similar to something else. I could say my new furniture that I bought blends in well with my older furniture. They're not too different.
Right, or think of the chameleon, right? That special small lizard that its skin can actually change colors.
Cool.
So it will blend in if it's next to a leaf or something, it will turn green. And then if it moves on to a branch or something, it might be able to turn brown. So it's able to blend in with the background. The team also implemented, when you implement something, it means you add or you kind of put to use. They implemented special sound and light barriers. Now, a barrier is something that blocks something else. So here, if you have a sound barrier or a light barrier, what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep the sound or the light away from what you're building, okay? So it will block the sound and the light. And this will encourage nocturnal animals, or animals that are awake at night. If you're a nocturnal animal like an owl or a bat or a possum, these are all nocturnal animals. They're awake at night and they sleep during the day. These will allow these barriers, sound and light barriers, will encourage these nocturnal animals to cross, despite there being the road noise and the light noise.
Yeah, there are a lot of lights, of course, on the highways to help the driver see the road clearly. But I was wondering how they were going to convince these wild animals to start using this bridge. It's going to be interesting to see how successful it is. I hope it's really successful.
Me too.
Moving on to the final paragraph, it says, if anyone needed to justify the crossing's high costs, they need look no further than Canada. To justify something means you probably have to come up with a good or acceptable explanation for something that maybe some other people think is unreasonable. For example, I had a friend who bought a very expensive race car.
Wow.
And I said, wow, how can you justify spending so much money on one car? It was like $100,000. I just thought, that's crazy. You could do so many other things with it. But for him, that's what he loved. He loved fast cars. So he had done well in business, so he decided that's what I want. So sometimes you can say, I don't have to justify myself to you.
Yes.
Someone might say, why did you make that decision? You shouldn't have done that. And, what they're saying is there wasn't a good reason why you did it. But you could come back at them and say, hey, I don't have to justify my life or my decisions to you.
No, if you're an adult, usually then you can make your own decisions.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, it's a little bit harder to have, but your parents might ask you to justify something, and you're like, well, you're a kid, so it's more difficult.
So, if anyone needed to find a good reason or an excuse to pay for such an expensive crossing, they need look no further. It means all you have to do is look across at Canada to see why this is a good investment. What is that reason, Jacob?
That's right. Well, we often can look to Canada because they do some good things up there.
And bad things. We know that.
Their Banff National Park, okay, so this is a national park in Canada. It has over 40 wildlife crossings. So this is fantastic. So this park in Canada, they've built many, many more wildlife crossings, 40 wildlife crossings, and these have resulted in a 90% reduction, so 90% less wildlife deaths from traffic. Okay, so this is great. So look at Canada. They had a similar problem, maybe. They built these wildlife crossings, and the number of deaths from traffic accidents of animals went way down, 90%. That's incredible. Of course, 100% would be no more deaths at all. This is 90%, so we're close to eliminating or getting rid of all wildlife deaths from traffic.
It's hard to compare Banff National Park with LA.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They're completely different. But Canada's mostly, a place for lots of wildlife and rural living. Not rural living. Yeah, rural living. Not so many big cities. But I think it's wonderful to try to help and save these animals. We need them for our ecosystem, remember. So thanks to the reduction in accidents, the park there at Banff, which is beautiful if you ever get a chance to go, the park's found its crossings often pay for themselves. If something pays for itself, it means you get so many good benefits back from something that the money you spent to do it or to build it or to go somewhere was worth it. In the end, it was very much worth it.
Sure.
So it pays for itself or it pays for themselves. If you go to a school that was expensive, but when you graduate, you get a great job, that tuition will pay for itself by you getting a great job and being able to pay your student loans off, perhaps, very quickly.
I thought of an air conditioner. You might spend a little bit more money to buy one of those fancy energy-saving air conditioners.
Oh, but they're worth it.
Right. So in the beginning, you pay more up front, but then later on, if your electricity bills are lower, the air conditioner will basically pay for itself.
Yeah. We often will use that phrase, it paid for itself, after just a few short months. So whether someone believes in spending large amounts or sums of money to help wildlife or not, there are also substantial human benefits. Yeah, so substantial just means so large it's easy to see. Substantial, really big benefits. I'm glad to hear that our author thinks that. I'm sure it's true.
I do too. So I'm a big fan of this wildlife animal crossing. I think I'm going to go look it up on the internet.
Yeah, see what it looks like.
See the progress. And I'm glad that it will help the wildlife in Southern California because, as we've said, there are lots of cars and lots of highways down there.
Yeah, sadly, you always see dead animals.
Yeah.
We call the carcasses, their bodies.
That roadkill,
right? Yeah, roadkill. Someone gets out and moves that roadkill or dead body to the side of the road. It's very sad. Okay, guys, it's usually time for a Chinese teacher, but not today. So we're just gonna say goodbye. We hope you enjoyed this particular program, and we hope you'll come back soon for English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Jacob. Bye-bye.
Bye.